Hi guys, this is Bill from Spencer1984.com with another update to the Twister trucks. So it's been another week of slowly pecking away at things, plus the arrival of some new goodies that we'll get to in a minute. But first, I'll start with taking a look at the Ram chassis. So the modifications are pretty much done and it's just about ready for paint. I got the rear end fully assembled now. These are all the stock parts from the Revell kit, and they're just put together pretty stock. Got the fuel tank squared off, got it cleaned up where it mates to the frame rail, and I've got a little bit of a filler up here at the front of the tank, right here, this upper section. It's a little easier to see from this side, but this is the ugly angle, so we don't want to look at that. But got that filled in. I've got these sections greebled up a little bit. I've got the lines continued, and I've got some new cab mounts here. These are just some leftover parts from The Last of Us S10, and don't match exactly, but they look pretty close. Everything else here is just bits of plastic, sanded or formed to kind of match what's already been there. So last thing is I need to put the front axle and front suspension in. I'm waiting for the front axle. That's in the mail, should be here shortly. And then I also spent some time getting the interior put together. So I've added the same 20mm extension. And what I did is I cut just behind the front seat. I shortened that up a little bit and added some fillers. So once the front seat's in place, that looks pretty realistic. I don't know as I'd go comparing it to a 1-1, but I think for this, it works pretty well. Also, the VTS had a floor shifter, so I filled in the 2 holes where the boot was supposed to mount. And then I added another rib right here just to kind of mask the seam where my new floor and the old one come together. This doesn't look like a whole lot, but once it's on the chassis, most of that is hidden. And also, you can see there why I wanted to put that little filler piece on the front of the gas tank. I think that looks pretty good. And down the other side here, the exhaust system, and then in the middle, the drivetrain, transfer case, all that. So a lot of this is going to be masked off, but I think what you are going to see is still going to look okay. Now you might notice I textured the back of the floor, and I did the same to where I sanded off and added the new floor here. And I tried something that I hadn't done in a really long time, but I thought it was going to work here. And it was pretty simple, but I think effective. So liquid cement, a piece of scrap sandpaper, and the styrene itself. And all I did is I flooded the styrene, just really got that gooped up. And then while it was still wet, just press the sandpaper into it like this. And it mars up the surface just enough so that it looks like either undercoating or carpeting. It's actually much harder to see on this little piece. I don't know if that's coming through on the camera, but that was the method that I used, and I think it's a lot easier to see here on the interior. That's what I did on the drive shaft transmission tunnel. And then just drop it into the cab so you can see how that looks. Get that lined up, and there you go. You can see lines up with the rear window frames and lines up with the firewall. Then we can bring in the chassis, pull it all together so you can see how it looks. Come on. All right, there we go. And that kind of gives you an idea of what the engine bay is going to look like. And underneath, that all comes together pretty good, I think. And in fact, let's bring in the box. And yeah, that's starting to take shape. As long as I've got the box here, you might notice I have drilled out the tail lights Need to do a little bit more cleanup on them, but I did that because as I was working on it, I realized that my favorite scenes in the movie, they all had their headlights on and were looking badass in the storm. So I got myself a whole bunch of LEDs, and these are enough to do headlights, parking lights, roof lights, roll bar lights for both the Ram here as well as the Jeep. Now, most of the lights are pretty straightforward. The only ones that I really had to do some work on are the corner markers here because they were cast in. So what I did is I outlined them with a little Sharpie pen so that I could see what I was doing, drilled through the middle of it, dremeled out the socket, and then I can go back and just sand off the rest of it here. And because I drew that line around the edge, it also lets me know once I've got the plastic cut down to the body. So now I can just polish it off and switch over to the finisher here. Just kind of feather that into the rest of the fender. And there you go. There's my light socket. And so what I'll do is I'm going to feed the Pico LEDs through the holes, and then I'll be able to put clear plastic over top, and there's my corners. I also did a little bit of filler here on the front fender, so there were a couple of sink marks. I left the one on this side. Figure, well, Joe's truck had a few dents in it, so it's okay if there's one or two of them, but I thought matching dents on each side looked a little weird, so just a little spot filling on those. And so that's going to do it for this week. I had a couple of questions from some people about whether I was going to make a Dorothy or not, and I wasn't sure until I decided to fully commit to the lights. Since I did that, yes, I'm going to put a Dorothy in the back of both of these because that's where I'm going to hide the little battery box and the switch for him. I figure that way, if Dorothy is removable, then I can have the battery and the switch sitting right in the bed, top center. I can hook everything up, run the wiring, make sure the lights all work, do everything that I need to do with just the body. I won't have to be mucking about with wiring going from the body to the chassis and everything else like I've had to do on some of the other ones in the past. I'm hoping that'll make it a little easier. I don't know for sure, but we're going to find out. Both Dorothys are going to be scratch built, so at some point in the next few weeks I will start in on those. But the next steps on these are going to get the last of the sanding done on the bodies, because I think both of these are just about ready for paint. I'll get them into some paint. I've got some more parts coming, like I said, the front axle for the Ram. I've got some tires coming for the Jeep, because then I'll be able to get the chassis done for both of those. Get some engine work done on the Dodge. I think the engine for the Jeep is pretty well done at this point. And yeah, so I am going to have another update on these next week. You can check back then, and thanks for watching.